how much of it is this team's really not coached that well, and how much of it is maybe some players are checking out?
I think it's a lot of guys just are tuning out, not necessarily checking out. Now I want to preface this. I can't relate to this energy, and I have no idea why people are acting in the manner in which they're acting. But I think I think what happened is Mike and them did a great job of getting the guys amped up. And I'll give a personal example. 20 years ago, the 2005 season, we played the University of Miami on Labor Day. And Labor Day, actually, yeah. We had lost to Miami, I believe, 5 times in a row. All close games. Our entire offseason was beat Miami, beat Miami, beat Miami, beat Miami, beat Miami. We beat Miami. Didn't know what to do after that. The only thing we worked toward was beating Miami, but we eventually had to snap out of it and get to it. It was like 10-7 against Citadel, and then we ended up winning like 65-7 or something like that. It was just some things that were uncharacteristic for a very talented team. But it was one thing that we had was internal leadership and guys who were driven by not just the logo, but making sure we could feed our families one day. Everybody wanted to go to the NFL. So we knew in order to go to the NFL, we had to do these different things, regardless of if we thought Jeff Bowden was a good offensive coordinator or not, regardless of if we thought we were being coached well or not. Those guys were making 6 figures. We weren't. And the goal was to be able to make 6 figures or become multimillionaires in the National Football League. So what I think is happening is guys bought in early, kind of lost what it was, and are smelling themselves a little bit. And now they're getting themselves into holes that they can't dig themselves out of. And the only way they're going to be able to do is look to the person to the left, look to the person to the right, and the leadership, and be able to get themselves out of that. But the defense and the offense aren't playing complementary ball. And these guys are acting in manners that are unbecoming of potential professionals. So they've got that's about the only explanation. But when we talked about it, we've seen it. We've seen 2-10. It could get worse. And these guys have to look inside and determine what they want to be able to do. And do they want to be considered, again, maybe not the worst team in FSU history, but the second worst team in FSU history, or do they want to go out and finish this season? I have questions of them even being bowl eligible at this point. And it's not a lack of talent. Look at the roster. I'll use Edwin Joseph as an example. Number 3, the young man who I'm highly disappointed in the manner in which he conducted himself, right? Edwin Joseph had offers from the University of Florida, Miami, Penn State, numerous people. Everybody wanted him. Most of the guys on this roster, everybody wanted at a time. It's about how you orchestrate the meal. And I don't think they're doing a great job of orchestrating the meal in the manner in which is proper for them. And that comes down to recruiting, personality types, and the people who need to be there, as well as tuning them out. Because I know this, to not hear anything, and forget the firing of Mike Norvell for a second, to hear that Edwin Joseph is still on this team. And this is no disrespect to the young man. I don't know him, and I wish him the best. But I do know if you would have acted like that, the axe would have been had. If not, you might have been left in San Francisco and not have been able to get back to Tallahassee, let alone come back to Tallahassee and not have a suspension or anything else looming.
Yeah, that's another microcosm kind of the Norvell era and what's went wrong the past couple of years. It's like, not only was he not off the team or suspended or anything like that, he was right back in there. And heck, you might not have a chance to win it at the end without him, but that culture is so far gone of accountability now that it's just tough. To what you were saying, Mark, yeah, the Florida State fans could see it happening just because we've been down this road before. Just play down to the level of whoever your competition is and crap the bed at the end of the day. I mean, the offense, it looks like the defense on its face, if you just look at the box score, or the final score. It's like, all right, well, the defense played pretty good. The offense didn't do anything. Well, they had 450 something yards, and moving the ball up and down the field, but situationally, in every big moment, false start, offsides, and just over and over and over again. You just couldn't ever get anything going. It's just to the point, and I think we talked about it last week. 6-6, you're a dead man walking, and it's going to be tough for him to get there. Anything less than 6-6, we're going to have these conversations every week. And to lose to Stanford, the thing I look about, like, and I look at the rest of the games on the schedule, you're going to lose to Stanford if you don't have some kind of miraculous like buy-in. You're going to lose to Clemson. You're going to lose to Florida. You might lose to NC State. Like, you could win four games, easily. So it's a tough place to be for Mike. Mike Alford came out with the statement. Hugh Freeze is over there begging for an endorsement from his AD. Mike got his right off the bat. The fan base obviously erupted, but what are they going to say? That's not legally binding in court if he goes on to lose the next two games and the boosters get fired up. But you hate it for Mike, but the message it's on deaf ears. There's a joke on Twitter about Respond. Apparently the players are, making fun of Respond in the locker room post game. I don't know, but it's tough to watch.
Let's go down that path. So I saw the same article about making fun of Norvell using the term respond too much. There's all sorts of great coaches that have used all sorts of things that could be made fun of over and over and over, but they had 10-2 records or national championships or whatever next to their name, so they wouldn't get made fun of. So when you give respect to somebody, so I'll start with you, James, because I'm sure there have been people that you've encountered that had nothing on their name that would demand respect. Maybe they were picking up trash along the street. Maybe they, didn't have anything about them externally that would draw you to say, but you met the person and were like, you had great respect for them because they were intelligent. They just demanded respect. They had that about them. Then there are other people, if you said, okay, you're going to meet this senator, this bank president, you may just walk in there with respect already, and then they would have to disprove the respect. So you got Mike Norvell, and obviously if the record next to his name was 6-1 or 7-0, then he would probably get respect in the locker room. And I don't know how much lack of respect he gets, but and in a sense, I'm asking the right guy. In a sense, I'm asking the wrong guy, because again, you can't relate to a guy that's leading the locker room because you played for arguably the greatest of all time. So I don't know if you've run across situations where the respect was in question.
I think one of the things that I like doing is, is telling stories and reminding people, maybe of a time in the past where people haven't really thought about stuff. So everybody remembers the great moments of Bobby Bowden, right? And it trust me, the old man had tons of great moments, right? But there was a time we played Notre Dame where Bobby almost did lose the locker room playing Chris Ricks over Adrian McPherson. And people really forget this, because it's convenient to forget these things. And Bobby did a great job of dictating and making sure that people kind of kept calm and kept the main thing, right? So there was that. Also, I think one of the best things about today and why football and sports will always be high on everybody's list is because of the entertainment value. And one of the entertainment value things is we know so much about what happens, but know absolutely nothing of the nuance in what happens. So we picked on Bobby all the time. Bobby Bowden every Thursday night when we traveled. He gave the same speech for 4 years. And I'm assuming he did it 4 years before me, and he did it 4 years after me. You're around people enough to where it's like a family thing. Like if you think about it, like you probably had a dad, like Mark, your dad or your mom or somebody who disciplined. Every time they got mad, they did something, and when you walked away, like you mock them a little bit. It's a thing. So laughing and joking and talking about climbing, I would have probably been one of the same guys. Oh, here we go. We gotta hear about this climb shit again. You know, so like you'll hear something like that. Jeff Bowden, when we played Florida, we got my junior year, we should have won. And everybody complained. And Jeff Bowden brought us all in and we had a team meeting. And Jeff said, if I had to do it all again, I wouldn't change a thing. And all of us was like, really? Not one thing? We lost. So like our running joke for the bowl game and for all of the 25 season, if I had to do it all again, I wouldn't change a thing. It's a half joking thing. But I do think that I don't think that's how he lost the respect. I think when people bump by you and arguments happen, but like the way that Edwin Joseph came by him, that was a complete lack of respect, in my opinion. I think the TMZ nature of FSU's beat is to make everything seem so salacious and it's out of control. And it's like that. And it fuels the fan base because we want something to happen. It's just like Mike Norvell's. Mark, you worked in corporate America. I'm sure your bosses at ESPN said a lot of things that you did not like sometimes. You guys might even have disagreements. But if you would have punched your boss, what would have probably happened to you?
Well, I would have got hauled down to HR and then been
fired with cause. Fired with cause. It sounds really good in my cheese mode. Mike went to Tony White, and Tony White said, "Bam!" What did the 5 fingers say to the face? And it sounds great, and it sounds I would have done this, but knowing good and well, your boss doesn't like you listening to our YouTube podcast in the office, and you shut up and you turn the volume down and you act like you're supposed to act. We have to act like there's decorum and professionalism, even in a violent gladiator sport. It doesn't work like that. And I know one of my good dear friends, Rick Ballou, is like, ask the questions like this. And I'm like, want to tell him, shut up. I know your boss, Steve Griffin, has pissed you off numerous times, and you didn't punch Steve, old ass. So I know you know how this thing is supposed to go. And Tony White is a good guy. Nothing about Tony White strikes me as a scary individual, and that terrifies me as a defensive coordinator. You know who I'm still terrified of to this day, Mark? Mickey Andrews. Mickey Andrews still gives me a little bit of pause, and Kevin Steele still gives me a little bit of pause when I see them. It's the respect and the badassery that they embody. It's not just a kind of thing, but these guys just attitude reflects leadership, and I think the message is stale, and I think it's as it was told to me, it's imminent, it's not immediate.
Like I said, man, I agree. It's true. You know, a lot of things are overblown of what you hear and stuff. I think, you know, to your point, the bumping by, all that stuff. The results on the field is the final, you know. It's like we can get into, oh, well, this guy missed a block, this guy had a penalty. At the end of the day, the team kind of just falls apart. And to your point, reflects the leadership that it's getting at a certain point. There's only so many chances you can get, ways we can break this down. Like we saw the potential of the talent against Alabama. And then we saw, you know, what you could potentially do to lose to Virginia. Miami snowballed, Pitt snowballs, and now you are losing to Stanford. And it's just like, I feel bad for Tommy Castellanos. Shout out to him because he's out there putting his heart and soul. And, you know, the reason that FSU's still been in all these games, whether he's had the best game here, the best game there, he puts his body on the line. I wish they do something with the slide rule because a lot of times the defenders can't help it. I think this one was pretty egregious where he hit him, but it's hard to say. It's easy to say that when you see it in slow motion, but really nasty hit on him. Thank God we have a bye week. But yeah, it's it's hard to put your finger on it. I think I said when the first show after Alabama, like, wow, how awesome was it to see, Florida State be on the good side of the better coach team, no penalties, linebackers hitting all the gaps. And it was like that was the touch of death. Ever since then, it's, kind of been back to the old way of 24. So, yeah, I don't even know where we are about as far as questions or what the next move is. But, yeah, I'm at a loss for words.
What kind of intrigues me, among other things, in these kind of situations with trying to determine should a coach be fired? Are they out the door?